President Trump finishing up his first year in office with a victory on tax reform.
But there has been no shortage of scare tactics about it from Democrats and the mainstream media. So should you believe all of it?
Joining us now to weigh in is the president of Nicholas Wealth Management, David Nicholas. David, it's good to have you today to actually separate fact from fiction.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
All right, so we're going to play a series of clips. I want you to hear this first one from Rachel Maddow.
So when your family's taxes go up because of this bill, you can take comfort in knowing that that's what you're paying for. You're giving telecom companies and the biggest banks in the country a really embarrassing amount of money to have to explain away.
So what say you, David?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, Rachel. It's just not true. Most American families' taxes are not going up next year. Here are the facts. 80% of Americans are actually going to get a tax cut next year. Middle-class family of four are going to get a tax cut on average of about $2,000. For Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck, that makes a real difference. So unless you're a doctor or attorney who's single without kids living in D.C., unless you're in that 4% of Americans, if that's not you, your taxes are going down next year.
And David, on top of saying that it's Armageddon, Nancy Pelosi says that the bill is like Frankenstein. Listen.
They're taking great credit for this accomplishment. Well, I call it a Pyrrhic victory because it's a Frankenstein. And anybody who's familiar with Frankenstein knows that it was a creation, a monster that was created. Do you know the ending of the Mary Shelley's story? The monster comes back to destroy.
Is this a monster?
I just have to laugh at that. You know, Nancy Pelosi thinks this is going to haunt Republicans going into the midterms next year. It's just not true. Naturally, the incumbent party is going to lose some seats. Even Reagan lost 26 seats in 1982. But the reality is it comes down to the economy. If the economy is doing well, that's what Americans are going to be thinking about going into the elections next year. And look,
how soon will Americans feel those effects?
I think you'll feel them pretty quickly. Look, companies like AT&T, Comcast, Boeing, they've already front-run the bill and said, look, we're going to go ahead and pay our employees a $1,000 bonus because of these tax cuts. So I think you're seeing companies step up immediately. But from a tax reform standpoint, I think you're going to feel it in the first quarter of next year.
Yeah, the administration is saying the IRS may have it in your withholding by about February, so people might feel it early 2018. Let's get one more clip in here from Chuck Schumer.
Tax breaks don't lead to job creation. They lead to big CEO salaries and money for the very, very wealthy. Senator McConnell touted the repeal of the individual mandate. That's true. And now our Republican friends will own premium increases on millions of middle-class families. Republicans will rue the day they pass this bill, and you can bet Democrats will make sure of that.
David, part of that was the beginning part where Chuck Schumer repeatedly has said in recent weeks that this kind of tax cut does not trickle down to employees. It sounds like in the first 48 hours, 72 hours, that's not true.
Yeah, this is just a giveaway to the rich.
Well, you know, it's not true. A Democrat president, JFK, would disagree with Chuck, right? JFK believed if you lower taxes on job creators, guess what? We create more jobs. JFK, we saw one of the most robust economic expansions, 3 million jobs created. So no, it works. Reagan cut taxes, almost 16 million jobs were created. So we just need to look at history. We know what works.
David,
lowering taxes on the job creators works.
We've got 30 seconds. I do want to ask you, though, to be fair about it, what about the debt issue here, which is how you're going to pay for this? Republicans talk a good game about reducing debt. You run a wealth management company. I expect if I sat down with you, you'd tell me to get my credit cards in order and deal with my debt.
No question. We've doubled our national debt in the last decade. We've got to reduce our debt. But how do we get there? We get there by improving economic growth. Increasing economic growth will increase revenue. So I'm not as concerned about the debt now that we have a stimulus to the U.S. economy that'll in turn help increase revenues, which will help us start chipping away at that national debt.
Well, and a lot of people are saying, too, that the growth from the economy will help pay for the tax cut. So I guess we'll have to wait and see on that, right?
No, I think it's going to happen. We saw it under past administrations. JFK revenues went up. Reagan revenues went up. We've seen this work before. I think Donald Trump is the modern day JFK when it comes to tax reform. So I think we're going to see a expansion of the U.S. economy, one that we haven't seen in quite a while.
We haven't heard that before. The modern day JFK. David Nicholas, you said it first. Good to see you. Merry Christmas.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Meanwhile,
Merry Christmas.
first, she wrote the book on what happened in 2016. Now Hillary Clinton is taking on her next literary challenge, editing, yes, Teen Vogue. You're gonna